The shadow in deep space, the deep black of space was calm, as if the universe itself was sleeping. But then the stars began to vanish, not because they moved, but because something enormous passed in front of them. The patrol ship Virene's light was the first to see it, drifting on its slow route near the Orion gates. Its captain, a thin and nervous Zilari named Keth, stared at the main screen in silence. A shadow stretched across the viewing glass, larger than any ship he had ever seen. It didn't show any running lights. No beacon, no identification code, only darkness. "Scan it," Keth ordered, his voice trembling. The ship's sensors hummed, then returned an answer that made the crew exchange frightened looks. Size, immeasurable. Composition, unknown. Energy output, off the charts. And one final note from the computer. Origin, human. A chill ran through the entire bridge. Humans. The word hadn't been spoken in this part of the galaxy for over 200 years. They were supposed to be gone, vanished. After the Great Silence, some said they destroyed themselves. Others believed they went beyond known space, but no one truly knew. And yet, here it was proof that they had returned, and they didn't come in a small vessel or a friendly scout ship. They came in something the galaxy had never seen before. The shadow kept moving, its surface swallowing starlight, like an ocean swallowing a stone. Even at maximum zoom, the Virene's light could not capture the entire structure in one frame. It looked less like a ship and more like a drifting city. Great towers rose from its hull, and beneath them, enormous shapes that could only be weapons. Keth swallowed hard. If those guns were real, they could destroy fleets in seconds. And yet the ship made no attempt to hide. It moved with the slow, deliberate grace of a predator that feared nothing. "Send a transmission," Keth whispered. The comms officer tried, sending out standard hails in multiple languages. No answer, not even static. It was as if the monster ship didn't even care. That they were watching. "Should we follow?" one officer asked. Keth didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the scanner. The human ship had altered course. It was now heading straight toward a major trade hub Velora station, a station that served more than 50 alien species. A place that had never known war until now. In the Galactic Council's main chamber, chaos erupted as the first images were broadcast. Delegates shouted over one another, some calling for immediate military action, others begging for negotiation. The oldest among them, those who still remembered the last human war, spoke with voices heavy with dread. "They are not here by accident," one whispered. "They never do anything by accident." Another replied, "Back on the Virene's light." The shadow grew smaller on the screen as the human ship continued toward its target. Keth felt his hands shaking. It wasn't just fear of the ship itself. It was the feeling that something ancient had been awakened, something that had been waiting for this moment. He thought of the old war stories his grandfather used to tell, of battles where human ships fought until their hulls were nothing but burning wrecks, yet still managed to win, of weapons that could pierce planetary shields like they were paper, of commanders who smiled in the face of certain death. The monster ship finally crossed beyond their scanning limit, but its presence remained like a cold weight on the crew's chest. They knew the galaxy would never be the same again. Somewhere inside that floating fortress, humans were making plans the galaxy would not like. And then, without warning, a signal came through. Not words, just a sound deep, low, and powerful enough to rattle the metal walls of the bridge. It was a tone that carried across every frequency. The crew froze. Keth's voice cracked as he spoke. "What? What is that?" The comms officer's face was pale. "It's a war signal, Captain," he said slowly. "And it's not meant for us. It's meant for everyone." Asterisk fear spreads across the stars. The image of the shadow ship spread faster than light. Every news network, every trading channel, every pirate frequency carried the same grainy footage, an endless wall of black steel sliding across the stars. On planets and stations, people stopped whatever they were doing to stare at the screens. Merchants froze in mid-sail. Children dropped their toys. Soldiers stood silent with their weapons lowered. No one asked what it was. Everyone already knew. The humans had returned. In the crowded streets of Velora Station, 1,000 languages filled the air, all speaking the same words: fear. Dockmasters began locking hangar bays. Transport pilots screened for clearance to leave. It didn't matter where they went, as long as it was far from the monster ship's path. Old veterans gathered in shadowed corners, whispering to anyone who would listen. They told stories of the old wars, of battles fought in total darkness, where human ships appeared like ghosts and vanished before you could return fire, of weapons that turned entire moons into clouds of stone and fire, and of human commanders who never surrendered, even when facing certain destruction. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, panic took a different form. Delegates pounded their fists against the long silver table, demanding action. Some called for diplomacy, others for immediate fleet deployment. The archivist of Androl Prime, an alien older than any present, stood and raised his thin, trembling hands. "You think this is the time for debate?" he said in a voice like cracking ice. "This is not the time for debate. It is the time to run." The statement sent ripples through the chamber. One delegate shouted back, "We cannot show fear. They might be here to talk." The archivist's eyes narrowed. Humans do not send a monster ship to talk. On the lower decks of Velora Station, rumors twisted into something darker. Some claimed the ship carried a weapon that could wipe out an entire star system in one shot. Others whispered about the last regiment, an ancient human army frozen in time, waiting to be awakened. A few believed the ship was not just metal and engines, but something alive, a predator built from steel and hatred. In the mining colonies along the border, the effect was immediate. Entire families packed their lives into cargo crates and boarded freighters heading for the opposite side of the galaxy. Governors ordered planetary shields to be tested. Military recruiters found lines of young aliens signing up, desperate to defend their homes. But deep down, everyone knew defense was meaningless if the monster ship decided to strike. On the bridge of the Virene's light, Captain Keth listened to the flood of incoming transmissions. Reports from frightened captains, requests for evacuation escorts, and one chilling message from a scout vessel near the trade route. "They didn't stop for us," the voice said. "They didn't even look at us. It's like we're already dead." The monster ship kept moving. No signals, no broadcasts, no visible weapon fire. And yet it was tearing the galaxy apart without firing a single shot. Fear did the work for them. Fear moved faster than their engines. And as every star system braced for the worst, one question began to grow like a shadow in every mind. What happens when it finally decides to act? The Council's last warning, the Galactic Council chamber was locked down. No visitors, no outside transmissions. Only the highest-ranking leaders of every major species sat around the great circular table. The air was heavy, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. In the center, a massive hologram of the human monster ship rotated slowly, each detail highlighted in cold blue light. Fleet Admiral Tovarin of the Kalari Alliance slammed his clawed hand onto the table. "We cannot let it reach Velora Station," he growled. "Our fleets must intercept now." Across from him, High Speaker Oralis of the Drath Confederacy shook her head. "Do you remember what happened the last time someone tried to intercept humans?" she said softly. "They cut through 50 ships in less than an hour. And they weren't even trying." The council chair, an ancient and scarred figure named Vayer Tall, leaned forward. His voice was calm, but each word carried weight. "We have no choice. If we let them arrive unchallenged, the galaxy will see weakness." He tapped a command into the table's console. A new hologram appeared, this one, showing the Council's first response fleet, the most advanced warships in existence, deploy them, and send the warning. Moments later, across the galaxy, the Council's voice echoed on every frequency. To the vessel of human origin, you are entering restricted space. Turn away immediately or face destruction. On the bridge of the monster ship, there was no answer. The alien fleet, 50 strong, formed a tight blockade between the human vessel and Velora Station. Shields hummed, weapons charged, and fighter squadrons took up attack formation. In the flagship Errol's Spear, Admiral Tovrin stood with his officers, his eyes fixed on the target. "They won't ignore us," he muttered. "They can't." But the human ship kept coming. No change in course, no broadcast, not even a sign it noticed the fleet. It moved forward like a mountain sliding through the void. The Errol's Spear's targeting systems tried to lock on, but the computer failed again and again. "Target error," the AI repeated. "No stable lock possible." On Velora Station, civilians watched the live feed in terrified silence. Every screen showed the same image 50 of the galaxies. Most powerful ships facing one silent, black fortress. A child's voice broke the quiet in one viewing hall. "Mama, why isn't it stopping?" Back in the blockade line, tension hit its breaking point. One nervous alien captain, far younger than the rest, panicked. His ship's weapons fired without order, a blinding beam cutting toward the monster ship. Energy vanished on impact, absorbed into its shields without even a flicker. And then, for the first time since it had appeared, the human vessel moved with purpose. It turned slightly, bringing one massive cannon into view. The barrel glowed with an eerie, impossible light. In less than a heartbeat, a single shot tore through Space 3 Council warships, vanished in silence, their wreckage spinning into darkness. The human ship said nothing. It simply continued forward. And in the Council chamber, even the loudest voices fell quiet. No. One dared to speak the thought that now hung over them all. The warning had failed, and whatever came next would not be a negotiation. Asterisk, the first strike. The galaxy had seen war before, but nothing like this. The Council's first response. Fleet hung in formation, weapons armed, shields at full strength. 50 ships forming an iron wall between the human monster ship and Velora Station. They were the pride of every species built with the best technology the galaxy could create. And yet, in the cold dark of space, they felt like children standing. In front of a charging beast, the monster ship slowed, not as a sign of caution, but like a predator sizing up its prey. It drifted forward, the black surface of its hull absorbing every beam of starlight. And then, without warning, it struck. A single pulse of light erupted from one of its forward cannons. It was not bright like plasma or blaster fire. It was a cold, pale glow, almost ghostly. It slid across the void in total silence before touching the first Council battleship. And then that ship was simply gone. No explosion, no debris, only a swirl of broken atoms spreading out into space. Panic tore through the blockade. Fighter squadrons scattered. Captains shouted over comms, trying to hold the line. But the monster ship fired again. This time, the blast didn't take one target. It cut through 3 ships in a single sweeping arc, their hulls breaking apart like paper. Every impact was clean, precise, without wasted energy. It wasn't just destruction, it was surgical. On Velora Station, the crowd watching the live broadcast gasped in horror. Some turned away, unable to watch. Others couldn't look away. The destruction was so sudden, so absolute, it didn't seem real. In the flagship Errol's Spear, Admiral Tovrin barked orders. All ships, focus fire. Target their weapon ports. Dozens of beams lanced out toward the human ship. But instead of impact, the monster vessel's shields shimmered with strange ripples. The energy attacks twisted away, dispersing harmlessly into the void. It was as if the laws of physics bent. To protect it, then the human ship shifted its angle. Panels along its hull slid open. revealing rows of smaller, yet equally deadly, weapons. Hundreds of glowing orbs detached from the ship, each moving with perfect coordination. The orbs streaked through the battlefield, weaving around incoming fire as if they could see into the future. Where they struck, ships simply died, engines dead, lights out, drifting silently into the black on. The Virene's light, far from the battle. Captain Keth and his crew watched the chaos unfold on their scanners. Every reading made less sense than the last. The ship wasn't using any known energy source. Its power readings were impossible to measure. Keth whispered the thought that no one wanted to hear. This isn't a ship made for war. This is a ship made for ending wars in less than 10 minutes. The Council fleet was reduced to burning wrecks and dead hulls. The monster ship never rushed, never faltered. When the last surviving warship broke formation and fled, the human vessel didn't bother to chase. It simply turned back toward its original course, Valora Station, and for the first time since its return, it sent a signal, one short message, broadcast across every open channel. It contained no threat, no insult, only a single sentence spoken in a calm human voice. This was your only warning, asterisk. The unseen passengers. For days after the battle, the galaxy argued about what the monster ship truly was. Some claimed it was an automated fortress, run entirely by AI. Others swore it was a ghost ship, crewed by the spirits of human soldiers, long dead. But none of the theories explained what happened next. A small alien scout vessel, the Jiro's Wing, was ordered to shadow the human ship from a safe distance. Its crew kept low power to avoid detection, hiding in the monster's sensor. Shadow. For 3 days, they trailed the Black Fortress, watching, recording. Then, on the 4th day, they drifted close enough to see inside. The monster ship had windows thin, narrow slits in its armored skin. Through them, the scout's high-zoom lenses caught movement. Figures at first. It looked human tall, upright, wearing dark armor. But when the image enhanced, a crew of the Jiro's Wing realized they were wrong. These were not ordinary humans. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark, and strange metal ran under their skin like veins of silver. Their movements were too precise, too perfect. They stood in formation inside long, dim corridors, waiting, unmoving, not speaking, not blinking, waiting for something. The footage leaked, and within hours it reached every corner of the galaxy. Whispers began this was the last regiment, the most feared unit in human military history. Legends said they were soldiers enhanced beyond recognition, built to survive where no normal being could. They didn't eat, they didn't sleep, and they obeyed without hesitation. Some claimed the galaxy had forced humans to seal them away centuries ago, fearing what they might do. And now, it seemed, humanity had brought them back. On Valora Station, fear reached a breaking point. Entire sectors of the city were abandoned. Overnight, merchant guilds moved their wealth off-world. Even criminal syndicates fled, leaving the black markets empty. It didn't matter who you were. Nobody wanted to be anywhere near the monster ship when those soldiers stepped out, inside. The Galactic Council chamber. The debate turned to desperation. How do we fight something like that? One delegate asked. The archivist of Andril Prime simply shook his head. You don't, he said. You survive it, or you don't survive at all. On the Virene's light, Captain Keth watched the leaked footage in silence. The silver-veined soldiers didn't move, but something about them felt. Aware. It was as if they could see through the lens, as if they knew they were being watched. And then, just before the video cut off, one of them turned its head. Its glowing eyes locked directly onto the camera, and it smiled. Asterisk. The message. At last the human monster ship had been silent for weeks. It moved through space like a shadow that no one could stop. Every system it passed fell into chaos evacuations, military lockdowns, and desperate broadcasts begging for mercy. But the ship never answered, never slowed. It was as if it didn't even see the galaxy around it. Then, without warning, the silence broke. Across every open channel, on every frequency, used by every species, a signal cut through. It didn't matter if you were on a distant mining moon or in the heart of the Council's homeworld. The voice reached you. It was deep, steady, and unmistakably human. Prepare for judgment. It said no introduction, no explanation, no demand, just those 3 words in the Galactic Council chamber. The delegates froze. The words echoed through the air like a death sentence. Some demanded to send fleets immediately. Others shouted for unconditional surrender. But no one truly knew what judgment meant. That uncertainty was worse than any weapon. On Velora Station, people abandoned everything. Ships overloaded with refugees fled in every direction. Traffic lanes became so crowded that collisions were constant. In the panic, no one cared about credits, about contracts, about borders, only about getting as far from the monster ship as possible. Meanwhile, in military command centers across the galaxy, analysts replayed the audio over and over. There was something hidden inside it, not just the words, but a faint sound beneath them, a rhythm. Some said it was the beat of human war drums. Others insisted was the coded orders of the last regiment, awakening them for battle. On the Virene's light, Captain Keth sat in his chair, listening in silence. He had heard many threats in his career: pirates, warlords, even council death. Sentences, but none had ever felt like this. This wasn't a threat, it was a promise, and promises from humans were always kept. When the signal ended, the human ship altered its course. Its new heading sent shockwaves across every system map. It was going straight for the Galactic Council's homeworld. Not the trade hub, not the border stations. Straight for the heart of power, asterisk. The nightmare awakens. The Galactic Council's homeworld hung in the void like a jewel. Shimmering cities covered its surface, glowing with lights that could be seen from orbit. It had never been touched by war, never scarred by invasion. That was about to change. The human monster ship arrived without stealth. It came in slow, deliberate, and unstoppable. Every defense satellite locked on, every planetary cannon primed. The sky above the Council world filled with ships' war fleets from every corner of the galaxy. They had gathered for one last stand in the command tower of the Council's planetary defense grid. High Commander Drevin gave the order. All batteries, fire at will. A void lit up with beams, missiles, and energy lances. They hit the monster ship with enough force to shatter moons. But the Black Fortress didn't even slow. The attacks bent, rippled, and vanished against its shimmering shield. The human vessel moved through the firestorm like it was walking through rain. Then the ship began to open. Panels on its hull slid away, revealing a massive central hangar. Inside, rows upon rows of smaller ships waited sleek, black and armed to the teeth, and standing in the shadows between them, the silver-veined soldiers of the last regiment waited in silence. Without a word, the hangar released its swarm. Thousands of craft poured out, fanning across the sky. They didn't attack the fleets directly, they bypassed them. Heading for the planet below, the defense lines broke instantly. Warships tried to block them, but the swarm moved like a single living thing, weaving through gaps, avoiding every shot. On the surface, people looked up and saw the black rain falling. Sirens screamed, soldiers flooded the streets, and then the human voice returned. Broadcast on every channel. "This is your judgment," it said. "You were warned." From orbit, the monster ship fired not at the cities, but at the planet's shield generators. One by one, they went dark. As soon as the last shield fell, the last regiment landed. They moved through the streets like shadows with weapons, unstoppable and merciless. But they did not kill at random. They passed by civilians. Ignoring those who fled, they targeted only government buildings, military command centers, and council strongholds. It was not slaughter. It was execution. In the council chamber itself, the doors burst open. A single human commander stepped inside, clad in black armor that reflected no light. His scarred face was calm, his voice cold. "Your rule ends today," he said, "and the galaxy will remember why it once feared humanity." Outside, the monster ship hung over the capital like a second moon. Its shadow stretched across the world, and every species watching from afar understood the truth. The nightmare had not come to conquer. It had come to change the galaxy forever, and nothing would be the same again. Asterisk.